Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Talkin Ball with Pat Leonard. Really excited to have Super Bowl champion and former NFL wide receiver Bennie Fowler back on the program. Bennie is going to be a part of what we do here at Talkin Ball throughout the 2024 NFL season, breaking down the games, the matchups, and analyzing it from a player's perspective week in and week out. Really excited for that. In this interview, we talk a lot about Brandon Aiyuk and his situation playing out with the 49ers and the Pittsburgh Steelers. We get into a lot of Giants talk and also discuss the Denver Broncos and Bo Nix and the Dallas Cowboys decisions they have to make with contracts for their big time players. First, want to tell you about Boom Chaga. Boom Chaga Mushroom Super Drink is a natural extract loaded with anti-inflammatory, immune-boosting antioxidants and heart-healthy compounds. You can easily pour this natural liquid supplement into any of your favorite drinks. I put mine in my coffee every morning and immediately feel the difference. I personally have felt a post-workout-like energy boost with Boom. Chaga also has the ability to lower cholesterol, reduce inflammation, and improve immune and heart health with its beta-glucans and antioxidants. Go to boomchaga.com today to place your first order, and if you use the discount code TalkinBall25 or access it through the QR code on your screen, you will get 25% off your first subscribe and save order. Right now, that means a month's supply costs you only $30. Start feeling the difference today at boomchaga.com. We are also brought to you by Estate 98 Coffee, an all-natural specialty coffee with no sugar that is convenient for on-the-go professionals and parents. It takes me less than 10 seconds to make a delicious Estate 98 iced coffee and only a minute more to make a hot coffee or latte from this all-natural concentrate. Go to estate98.com/talkinball to get a special buy one, get one free deal. Also sponsored here by Bet Online. Bet Online is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything online sports betting. Right now, you can receive a 50% free bet of up to $250 on your first deposit to bet on anything from the Olympics to baseball to Formula One racing. BetOnline has every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads while the games are being played. When the game is over, head on over to our online casino and get in on a game of blackjack or poker or unwind with our over 150 slot games. Head to the website today and use a promo code BELIEVE and get in on the action. Think you know your stuff? You can also get in on our winner take all $300,000 NFL survivor pool for the upcoming season. From the preseason, NFL to college kicking off, BetOnline has every stat, matchup, and live odds and spreads while the games are being played. BetOnline, the game starts here. And now on to our fun and informative interview with Bennie Fowler. A great friend and special guest, Bennie Fowler, Super Bowl champion, former NFL wide receiver, back on the program to break down all things happening across football and the league. Bennie, great to see you, man. How you doing?
Pat, good to see you too, man. Thanks for having me on. Looking forward to another season with you and talking some shop and talking about things I used to do and the opinions that I have on what's going on in the world. So, looking forward to it.
I always respect those opinions. Bennie's going to be a key figure in what we do this 2024 NFL season on Talkin Ball, breaking down what you guys see every week on Sundays, has unique insight, not only into the receiver position he played, but also just into the inner workings of the league, how players process wins, losses, and everything in between. Very plugged in. So great to have you here, Bennie. And I wanted to start with really the topic of the NFL offseason as we sit here in August, and that is Brandon Aiyuk, the star wide receiver for the San Francisco 49ers. Now, as you and I sit here at this moment as we talk, this is still an unresolved situation. Could end up in a trade to the Steelers, could end up in a renegotiation and staying with a contract extension with the Niners. But Bennie, I wanted to kick off by just asking you flat out, this is all created right now by Aiyuk's desire to be paid like a top receiver among the tops in the NFL. And with all due respect to him, because he is a good player, my first question to you is he worth in that realm of low to mid $30 million range where he's looking to get paid?
Absolutely. I think he's one of the key figures in that offense. And San Francisco was the last team I played with, and it was just a couple of years ago. But I knew it was time for me to retire when I watched Brandon Aiyuk run. He ran a stop route, and it was just incredible. And I was like, okay, like I can't do that anymore.
Wow.
So it might be time for me to get on out of there. And I later got cut maybe a couple days later. But that's because they figured out who they had in that receiver room. They had some incredible players like Brandon. And I think he's one of the best route runners in the league. Let's say top 5, top 7 route runners. I mean, when they show the highlights on ESPN, you can see what type of route running ability that he has. And, you know, you got the Justin Jeffersons, the Tyreek Hills, the Devontae Adams when you're thinking about route running, Amari Cooper, obviously. And then Brandon Aiyuk is right up there. And then he was first team All-Pro, I believe, last year, 1,300 yards. You know, I don't know how many touchdowns and 70-something catches.
Yep. 75 catches, 7 touchdowns. Yep.
And he's 30th in the league in targets. I mean, that means he's a big play guy. And when you think about that and you think about that offense, Brock Purdy, he trusts Brandon, and that's because he knows Brandon's going to be open because he have the ability to create separation. And Brandon is not a gadget guy; he is a true outside the numbers receiver or playing in the slot, and he has that type of ability. So I definitely think he deserves to be paid, and he has that type of ability. You know, whatever his targets were, 30th something in targets. Imagine if you move that up to top 10 in targets. That means 25 or 35 more catches and more touchdowns and more yards. So he has that type of ability. If he went to Pittsburgh, I wouldn't like that just because of the quarterback play or inconsistent quarterback play there. But I think in the 49ers offense, if they really want to win the Super Bowl, if that's what their goals are, then they'll find a way to pay him.
That's a great story you tell too, the firsthand watching him run that route. Can you explain to me? I could listen to you all day talk about route running. You were obviously excellent at that as well. What about just watching a guy run a stop route as you described? What in that moment tells you, wow, that's something I used to be able to do and I can't now? Or, you know, that's a fairly simple route concept that you're working on all the time, right? So why is the way he did it so much more elite than the way most receivers do it?
Well, number one, he had beat the defender off the line. So he was maybe 3 or 4 steps in front of the defender and still beat the defender out of the break. So the defender was trailing him by 4 yards and he comes out in 2 steps. It's hard to come out of a stop route in 2 steps when you're running full speed. So that is where I was just like, you know, I can do it, but it's going to take me 3 to 4 steps to stop. You know, he did it in 2, and just his sudden change in his ability to stop is incredible. And that's just a hard thing to do. You have to either you have to naturally have that or you have to continue to work on it. And he's just one of those guys. I think he's a first round pick, and first round picks, you know, they have that type of ability, and he's got first round talent type of ability, and you're able to see that. I think both Super Bowl trips he's been a part of those teams, and he's made big plays. So I don't know. You know, it's always funny to think about some of these teams that talk about wanting to win Super Bowls and then not wanting to pay their best players. Like Trent Williams isn't there. Like, what are they doing? Same thing with the Cowboys. Like, what are you guys doing? Don't talk about like Super Bowl window and we're trying to go all in or we want to win now and then not pay your best players. That doesn't make any sense.
Does that come from, do you think in certain situations, like I was looking at the stats as we prepare for this show, and I noticed that in the receiving touchdown category last year, San Fran and Kyle Shanahan, they really spread the ball around. McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, and Brandon Aiyuk each had 7 touchdowns apiece, and Kittle had 6. I mean, that's a remarkable balance. Is there a case sometimes in the NFL from your experience where maybe the play caller or the coach feels like I'm smart enough to handle this without talent X, right? Like to say it's the scheme and not the players. And does that tend to be a slippery slope at times?
I think so. I think it really depends on who the quarterback is. I think Brock Purdy is a good quarterback, but he's been very successful in that system, and he's going into year 3, I believe. And he's had all these weapons around him, and he's still on his rookie deal. So why not continue to put those weapons around him? I think, you know, it is a slippery slope. Everybody talks about the Tyreek Hill in Kansas City situation, but Patrick Mahomes is the quarterback. So, you know, it's totally different. And Andy Reid is more of a receiver by committee. And he's always done that regardless of where he's been, you know, his years in Kansas City, his years in Philadelphia as a offensive coordinator and as a head coach. So I think it really just depends. But Kyle Shanahan needs a number 1 receiver. That's what his offense has always had. When you think about his time in Atlanta as the coordinator. Julio Jones, Mohamed Sanu, maybe Harry Douglas. But, I mean, he had a number one there. Had a great tight end play, great running back play. But he always had somebody on the outside that could beat one-on-one coverage. So,
Benny, why do you think – so I've talked to some players about this recently. So Brandon Aiyuk, like I said, people know he's good. People don't know he's great. You know, what is it like as a player watching from the outside as perception dictates reality, if that makes any sense? So in other words, when Tyreek Hill starts barking, I need a contract extension, the general public and the media and everybody gets behind it and says, of course he does. But like you said, Brandon Aiyuk, 7th in yards, even though he's only 36 in targets in the NFL, 17.9 yards per catch, second in the entire league, and is on one of the best teams and offenses and most targeted by far on the best offense in the league. So why isn't the perception different about a player like that? And then how do players change that perception in order to make sure they're properly kind of understood and rewarded? It's kind of a loaded question, but it's definitely something I've talked to enough players about that they feel like it's you end up getting maybe put into a box and it's hard to get out.
Yeah, I think you have to separate the two. I think when you're looking and you're looking at the media and how they're talking about things or how fans see things, they won't always understand it from the player perspective. But I bet you if you ask all those players about Brandon Aiyuk and his ability to run routes and be a number one, all the players in the league would be like, oh, no, he's top in the game, and that they watch his film and that they watch him go to work and they see how incredible he is. I think it's hard for people to see if they don't really understand how things work. But I think Brandon Aiyuk his stats speak for themselves. You can't just go get 1,300 yards. That's not a thing. You can't just wake up and do that. You can't just wake up and be a first team All Pro. Like, you have to get voted to be first team All Pro, and that means you had to play incredible.
That's also being available, right? Like that's
100%.
That starts with being on the field and a guy who is a willing run blocker, a good run blocker, and also, he'll take a beating. Like he'll go inside, right? He'll
go inside and he'll block. Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. He'll go inside, he'll block. He's healthy, but I think when you look at San Fran's offense, I don't want to say he's their dirty jobs guy, but you have the exciting players who do the jet sweeps and the reverses and throw the passes. You have the Deebo Samuel and Christian McCaffrey and Kittle. They have the personalities. And then, Deebo's playing receiver and running back. He's literally doing everything. So he's that Swiss Army knife. And it's hard to compare like a Tyreek Hill in this situation because, Tyreek Hill can catch a 1-yard pass and take it 80 yards. And then, he's going to make everybody look slow. But what Brandon Aiyuk does for that offense, I mean, they haven't had him without, this offense hasn't been without him for 4 years.
Right.
And so, San Francisco's been a top team in the league 3 out of the last 4 years. I think they've gone to the Super Bowl twice. And he's been on the outside and he's been starting for that team. So it's just hard to compare unless you really look at the film copy and not the TV copy.
You said something interesting as we started this conversation about, it's funny that teams say they want to win the Super Bowl, but then they're kind of balking at paying a guy like this. When you're a player in a locker room like this, is that a conversation that happens as you're sitting at your locker, taping up your ankles as you get ready for practice? Like if you're one of your best players, it's 4 weeks into camp or 2 weeks from the season, and it's contentious like this, and it even gets to the point where it sounds like he could be traded. And by the time people are listening to this, maybe he will be traded. Are those conversations that players have? Like, wait, what exactly are we doing here? Or do guys try to keep their heads down and just try to win anyway?
At this point in camp, guys are just keeping their heads down because they're tired. It's long days. It's preseason. They're thinking about how many reps they got to get, how many plays they got to play in preseason. The starters are thinking about that. And everybody's really just trying to get through camp and make it healthy. I think towards the end of camp, now is, Brock and the rest of those star players are going to be like, hey, like, what's going on now? And if the offense puts together a couple of bad days, then it's like, all right, we need him back. But I
You
think
ever
that's where it starts to get, and even with Trent Williams
right.
not being there, I think that's just as big. I mean, he's your offensive tackle. He's one of the best offensive tackles in the league in the history of the game. Like, it's a no-brainer. What are we doing?
That is a good understanding of leverage from Trent Williams there, because to your point, it's kind of like, what choice do the Niners have there? I mean, you could have the conversation as we're having about the wide receiver position, but like you said, that would make them a worse team if he ends up on the Pittsburgh Steelers or another team. But Trent Williams not being on the field, you could kiss the Super Bowl aspirations goodbye. And so he definitely seems to understand that. Have you ever been in a building where there was a hold in? Like how it started here with Aiyuk with the Niners, where like the guy is not happy, but he's in the building the whole time and he's not practicing. Seems like a very unusual situation.
I've never been a part of that. It
Mm,
is super unusual, but to me, I think that is what's kind of causing the confusion in terms of, do you really want to be here or do you really want to be traded? Because I believe he's still on his rookie deal, so he can't get fined. He's in the CeeDee Lamb situation. So why are
mhm.
you in the building? And I think if I'm thinking about the Niners, so like, this guy really wants to be here and he really likes our team. He likes our locker room. He likes our culture. So, I think they're kind of thinking in the back of our mind, like, he wants to be here. So, but if I'm Brandon Aiyuk, like, yeah, I've never seen that situation, but I'd leave because they're not taking you serious right now.
Right, right. And so as we speak here, the Niners have an offer to him on the table. There's also a deal in place for the Steelers. By the time you're listening to this or watching this, it may have been consummated one way or another. As it stands right now, he's due to make $14 million on the final fifth year option year of his rookie contract. Top of the receiver market is Justin Jefferson, 35 a year, AJ Brown, 32, Amon-Ra St. Brown, 30. Same with Tyreek, who just got a renegotiation. And then Jalen Waddle, 28.25. So Aiyuk looking for in that kind of low to mid 35s, which would pay him essentially top three money along with AJ Brown and Justin Jefferson. Benny saying he's worth it. Benny, last thing on Aiyuk.
I wouldn't say Justin Jefferson money, but
Okay.
30
All right.
million. He's in the Amara category, Jalen Waddle category. He should be paid higher than Jalen Waddle.
Okay, that's interesting because we'll see where it lands, but it does feel like the Niners are kind of where you are
Yeah,
financially, and that Aiyuk is in the AJ Brown Jefferson territory, in his opinion. So seems like an easy difference to split, but obviously means a lot to these guys and to the agents as well to set new markers. But I'm glad you clarified
yeah.
that.
He's not gonna. Yeah, he shouldn't reset the market at all. I
Okay.
mean, yeah. I mean, if we're thinking about jersey sales and top teams, and we're looking like, if he wants to be on a Super Bowl winning team, like, help us out a little bit. Let's do 29 million, 30 million a year. Because I mean, if Tyreek's making 30 million a year, let's bring you in there. But 35 million a year, absolutely not.
Interesting. Right. Still have to build the team. Right. No, for sure. Last thing, because it could end up being a Pittsburgh Steelers move. You said unsolicited that you wouldn't love that. One thing I noticed interestingly as I was looking up some of the stats, the only receiver who had longer yards per catch last year than Aiyuk was George Pickens from the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, obviously, new quarterbacks, right? Russell Wilson, Justin Fields in there. But to me, so you're not really sure about the QB situation, but also from that yards per catch standpoint, Benny, um, wouldn't that be a little bit unusual? Like you would be adding a really good player to the offense, but it's also, you're now putting two guys in there who do their best work down the field. I mean, not that that's a negative, but do you think that that would work from just like a scheme offensive standpoint?
100%. I don't think that would mess up the scheme at all. And I think George Pickens having a higher yards per catch than Aiyuk, or having the top one in the league, is because their quarterback play sucked. So, they're only throwing the ball down the field, or they have to throw, they're in first and long or second and long, whatever it may be. So, they're really only throwing go routes. They're not throwing intermediate routes, because whoever their quarterbacks were, Pickett or Trubisky last year,
Mm.
aren't necessarily the most accurate intermediate throwers of the football. So that, I think it'll be a little bit different, but I also don't think Aiyuk, we won't get to see his full ability and talent if he goes to Pittsburgh, because that offense, if Justin Fields wins, the offense will be centered around play action and him also using his legs, and it'll be more of a Lamar Jackson style type of offense in terms of there will be a lot of zone read options and then passes off of that.
Hmm.
And then when you have Russell Wilson, it's more big play, boot, play action, because Russ, he can't really see over the offensive line, so he's not really a drop back passer. So everything's on the move.
Really good context and insight there, Benny. Moving on to another NFC team, always in the news, Dallas Cowboys. This has kind of been a talking point for a while, still lingering at the moment, though. CeeDee Lamb, 25-year-old wide receiver. Dak Prescott, 31-year-old quarterback. Micah Parsons, 25-year-old edge rusher. If you're paying 2 out of those 3 on long-term extensions, Benny, who are they and why?
That's a tough question. If I have to pay, I'd probably pay CeeDee Lamb and
we stumped them. We've never stumped Benny
CeeDee
before.
Lamb. CeeDee Lamb. I'd pay CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott right now. CeeDee Lamb, #1 receiver last year, catches, yards. That's a no-brainer. What are we even discussing? I'm in the Justin Jefferson category. This doesn't even make any sense. I'm the most targeted receiver in the league. I caught the most passes. I had the most yards. This offense actually can't function without me at all.
No doubt.
Like, at all. You also gave me the number 88. You gave it to me, Jerry. So I'm that good. So just give me my money. Like, this is make this easy. Whatever it is. And then Dak Prescott, because it's hard to find quarterbacks in this league, and you can't just plug and play with free agent quarterbacks. So it's hard to find that. And then, Micah's incredible. I think an incredible player. I still want to see him show up in the more prominent games. I didn't see any sacks against Green Bay or, any of these tough games. Like, I still want to see that. I don't want to see the sacks in the blowout games. I want to see the sacks, and I want to see the impact in the meaningful games. I could say the same thing about Dak in terms of his play as well, but it's just super hard to find a quarterback. I can go find pass rushers, not everywhere, but it's easier to find than a quarterback.
No, I agree with that, actually. I would go CD and Dak as well. Not that Parsons has gotten in any major trouble yet, but the Cowboys, it's a very player-empowered, player-friendly program. And sooner or later, I think you can see Micah kind of buck at the public perception of if he's not making enough big plays in big games. He seems very attuned and alert to that type of criticism and very proud and feels like maybe he's above it, at least from my vantage point. Now, he is an incredible player. He's a guy that you have to prepare for whenever you're playing against them. You have to scheme your entire offensive game plan when he's on the field and all of that. But I just feel like if I could pay 2 of these guys for the next 5 years and feel like they're going to be the face of the Dallas Cowboys and I'm not going to regret it, I think it's Dak and CD as well. Also, I just, you're right. I mean, Dak, they fall on their face in big spots in the playoffs, obviously, including him. But man, I mean, this guy was the runner-up to the MVP award last year. He's the only guy other than Mahomes in the last 2 years to throw 36 touchdown passes in a season. And he's coming off his best year. Like, he's literally coming off a year where he shredded the entire NFL. So, yeah, not an easy decision there, obviously, but I agree with you. Another team, we were talking about the Niners. You said you were there late in your career. So a team that you played for, the Denver Broncos, and a coach you played for, Sean Payton, gets us to our next topic. And that is, I want to know what you know and then what you think of what Bo Nix and this offense and this team can be this year, because a lot of the rookie quarterbacks are kind of encouraging performances early in the preseason. Nix was one of them, 15 of 21, 125 yards, 1 touchdown pass. And I just want to know from your experience with Sean and with Denver and your knowledge of the Broncos, how quickly can this take shape? How quickly can Nix have success and Sean Payton get them back to where the Broncos believe they should be?
Yeah, I think Bo looked great in his preseason debut. I mean, 15 for 21 and making some good throws and some accurate throws, getting the ball out fast, which Sean likes. So I think he's been able to grasp offense. I think that at least what it looks like now that he'll be starting week 1. I don't know much, and I keep my length from the team just because I'm just so far removed from playing. But he looks good. I heard he's incredibly smart from some of the receivers that I know that are still on the team, the Tim Patricks and David Seals, who I was in New York with. So they do say he looks good and that he's super polished and that he can understand the offense. So I think that's important. I think when you're playing with Sean, he is going to play to people's strengths. So what are the plays that Bo seems to grasp and handle well, and then how do we continue to dress those plays up in different personnels and different situations? Whether it's the same play with 3 receivers, 2 receivers, 3 tight ends, 2 tight ends, whatever it may be. Sean's really good at dressing up his best plays and getting the defense to play that top style of defense that he wants to play that's best for that play. So he's really good at that, and I think we'll have an opportunity to see that here in Denver and see Bo do well. It's tough when you play in this division because Patrick Mahomes is in this division, and then now you got Harbaugh in this division. But it's similar to when Elway was playing in this division a long time ago. It's like, yeah, I mean, everybody's fighting for second place in the division because John was just that good. So I think you're in that type of situation here in Denver. But if you think about Denver from a kind of like a private equity business standpoint, the Broncos just got bought. They had a bad head coach. Now they got a great experienced head coach. And now it's like a turnaround. So it's going to take a couple of years still. And, you're still paying Russell Wilson. So, free agency next year will be exciting for the Broncos because they'll have some more money to spend. But, they'll catch some teams off guard. They can play some really good football this year and run the ball. And they got a great offense. So I think, Sean's going to start up front and he's going to try to run that ball. But he will help Bo understand where he needs to go with the ball and not turning it over.
So you like this as an encouraging building block year for them. I got you. Yeah, that makes sense to me. And it was funny. It stopped me because as I was preparing for this, I'm looking and I'm saying, if Herbert really isn't 100% with the foot, maybe the Broncos could be the second place finisher in this division. But then I was looking at their schedule and it's 3 of 4 on the road to start. It goes at Seattle versus Steelers, at Tampa, at Jets. They obviously play the Chiefs twice in the year. They play the Ravens. They play the Bengals. It's brutal. I mean, it's not a lot of breaks, especially if you got a rookie quarterback there. But really, really excited to see what Payton does with Nix because especially when you say that guys there are saying that he's really smart. And also Bo Nix, I can't remember if he was first or if Michael Penix was first, Benny, but does it mean a lot when a kid comes out of college with a ton of throws under his belt? Like, is it, do you ever see a correlation between a quarterback when he's coming out of college where, let's say he played 4 or 5 years as a starter versus a guy who was a freshman or a sophomore? Do you feel like that normally shows itself as producing results when guys get to the league, or is it just a different game and you kind of throw it all away?
No, I think it's definitely a very positive sign when people have played a lot of football. I'm not a big fan of like, oh, this guy was on the scene for 1 year and then played. I mean, you see that with Brock Purdy, played, I think, 4 years, and you see a guy like a Patrick Mahomes or even a Caleb Williams now. I mean, I don't know how many years he played, 3.5 years, but you appreciate that. You can see throws, you can see a lot of different tape, but then they just come in a little bit more mature because they have been preparing as a starter for at least 3 years. And I think that's important, is that preparation as a starter. So, because this is going to be a long year for Bo. It's going to be a long year for all of these rookie quarterbacks, and preparing for a college game and preparing for an NFL game is very different in terms of the time put in, the understanding the defenses, and then understanding, I mean, you're putting in new plays, especially with Bo, what he'll see this year. Sean will put in the plays, a total new set of plays to beat this team. And that's how he goes about it. He's not just going to run vanilla plays. We ran really vanilla plays when I was in New York. It's like, oh, we're just running an over and in a post. Like, no, is that going to beat this team? What's going to beat this team? And let's attack them there. So, but I do have a lot of encouragement with a guy like Bo, and then some of these other young quarterbacks. I mean, Jaden Daniels, I'm super excited just to watch him play in that division. And it's going to be exciting. The NFL it never disappoints.
I always find it crazy. Like I used to hear Bill Belichick, people always used to say the thing about him that's different is he changes his game plan every week for the next opponent and he tailors it to them. And I thought, isn't that what every coach does? but
Well,
apparently it is not true.
no, it's not true. And then I think it depends on what type of roster you have and can people, grasp those concepts, and then what type of teacher you are. Ultimately, it comes down to what type of teacher you are and can you explain it into a way and helps people understand that. So, and I think Bill was a great teacher, as we can see.
Right. Like changing it week by week, you need to be able to like boil it down and let guys play fast and not make it overcomplicated. That makes sense.
Exactly.
All right, we're going to pivot in our second part of this interview to some Giants talk. First, want to tell our listeners and viewers about Boom Chaga, our sponsor here on Talkin Ball with Pat Leonard. Boom Chaga Mushroom Super Drink right over here over my shoulder. It is a natural extract loaded with anti-inflammatory, immune-boosting, antioxidants, and heart-healthy compounds. You can easily pour this natural liquid supplement into any of your favorite drinks. I put mine in my coffee every morning and immediately feel the difference. I personally have felt a post-workout-like energy boost with Boom. Chaga also has the ability to lower cholesterol, reduce inflammation, and improve immune and heart health with its beta-glucans and antioxidants. Go to boomchaga.com today to place your first order. And if you use the discount code TalkinBall25 or access it through the QR code on your screen, you will get 25% off your first order on the subscribe and save option. Right now, that means a month's supply costs you only $30. Start feeling the difference today at boomchaga.com. So, Benny, pivoting to some Giants talk off of the rookie QB talk, Bo Nix looking good. JJ McCarthy looked good, but unfortunately undergoing surgery for a torn meniscus. So now that means we're looking at Sam Darnold versus Daniel Jones in week 1. And I wanted to start the Giants talk by asking you, Saquon Barkley gone, Malik Nabers in. How do you feel like that helps or hurts the Giants offense for Daniel in a pivotal year? And how do you think they match up right off the bat in a game like that against Brian Flores and the Vikings?
Yeah, it's sad to see Saquon not in a Giants uniform just because, I was there with him his rookie year and his second year. And he's just an incredible athlete. But, watching Hard Knocks and Joe Sheen and the way he was interacting with Saquon, I don't blame him for leaving. From a business standpoint, I think it's ridiculous. And I think Mr. Mara even said it on the show. He's our most popular player. Why wouldn't you trying to find a way to pay him? I think it could be a little bit better though for the Giants that Saquon's not on the team, because now who are they going to key in on? Malik Nabers is a rookie and he's super exciting, but he's not going to command a double team. So I think Giants going running back by committee, and I think it helps Daboll, hopefully, from a calling play standpoint, not feeling like you have to force the ball to one type of person. Everything can be done by committee. And I'm not trying to compare this, but if I think about like Aaron Rodgers when he was in Green Bay, when they first won that championship, he was spreading the ball around to Greg Jennings, Donald Driver, Jordy Nelson. And by no means am I saying that the Giants are getting ready to have that type of offense, because I think Aaron won the MVP that year, but they will be able to spread the ball around. I think I've seen Hyatt running some incredible routes on social media. Big play Slay. It's always going to be the go-to guy down the field. He's super fast and very consistent, the most consistent receiver for the Giants the last 4-5 years, maybe. So
Yep.
Incredible hands. He's a reliable guy and one of Daniel's favorite targets. And then Malik Nabers, everything that he did at LSU was incredible. And he looks like an exciting guy to get the ball. I would try to get him involved early, get him the ball in space and down the field. But the running backs, we'll see how it goes. But the most important part for when they play the Minnesota Vikings is, can they protect Daniel? I mean, if you can't protect anybody, Malik Nabers, that doesn't matter, or Hyatt doesn't matter. None of that matters if you can't protect them. So got to find a way to protect DJ and give him some time.
And Betty, you've never been, shy about voicing your support and belief in Daniel Jones, obviously former teammate. You loved him when he was here. You loved all his intangibles and what he could do on the field too. For Daboll to really take this up a notch, the one offense he had as he's called plays throughout different stops that was explosive, and of course that got him this job, was when he had Josh Allen at quarterback, Steph Diggs at wide receiver, and really he had a Devin Singletary. He didn't really run the ball. It was all on the quarterback, and Allen was able to handle that. How do you think Daniel can handle that? Like if the expectation is, okay, Saquon's gone. Yes, we're going to run the ball, but it's not going to be our strength. It's kind of all on you, Daniel, your arm, your legs. Can he handle that pressure and expectations to perform at a high level over the course of a 17-game season?
Well, DJ's back's up against the wall, so he better handle it. He has no choice but to handle it, and that's what being a pro is all about. So, yeah, of course, I'm always going to be pulling for Daniel, but yeah, his back's against the wall, and he'll have to make those decisions, and I think he will. But I also think this comes down to offensive line. Doesn't matter. I mean, Josh Allen is incredible with his legs and is doing incredible things, but he also had some protection. And I think if DJ could take a page out of Josh Allen's book, is that, hey, if it's something not open, use your legs and run the ball. I don't need QB runs, but hey, if we're going to spread people out and there's nothing there, they'll get the first down and live to fight another day. So, but DJ's got to stay healthy this year. He's got to take care of his body, got to take care of the football, and and he's got to get his offensive line to protect him. These plays where he's getting hit early and often, that's never good for a quarterback's psyche. So I think, but yeah, DJ's gonna have to play well, and I know he will.
You mentioned big play Slay, Darius Slayton, leading receiver for the Giants 4 of the last 5 years. And of course, everything that happened in the spring where he said he would have essentially welcomed playing elsewhere or being more appreciated and targeted here, that is in the rear view mirror somewhat. And he is committed now to being a part of the team this year. And it looks like, frankly, they need him, Benny, based on the wide receiver depth chart and how he produces. But he changed agents. He's got a big powered agent behind him now. This is definitely trending towards either midseason or after the season, depending on how things go, probably him playing elsewhere. And I just want to know from your standpoint, knowing him as a player and a person and this team and this offense and the league, do you think this is the best place for him now? Like, can he succeed here as a Giant in this current format? Is this a good place for him? Or do you feel like at this juncture of his career, the best thing eventually for him is going to be to go to an offense that is just more effective at pushing the ball down the field? He's obviously from down in Georgia. You have a team like the Atlanta Falcons. You have teams like the Chiefs who are always looking to just like kind of get a guy who can make a couple plays in a big way. And then some other young, quarterbacks, Jordan Love, CJ Stroud, places where, they're really good at pushing the ball down the field, and that kind of fits Slayton's skill set.
Yeah, I think, New York is a great place for him. Number one, it's an incredible city. So, I don't like to steer people away from New York. I love New York. But I think it's a great place for him too, just because as long as DJ is the quarterback there, they're always he'll get a lot of stats there. He'll get, he might not be the most targeted person and the offense won't be designed around him, but DJ's always going to find him. And personally, as a friend and as a former teammate of his, would love to see him go somewhere where there is more consistency of getting him the ball. I don't know if Kansas City would be that type of offense for him. They are they're a gadget type of offense, and Travis Kelce's always the focal point, and then it's always receiver by committee. But Slay's a route runner, and he can run routes. I mean, he's got his speed down the field, but he's got some great routes, and we've seen some big plays from him over the years. So, I'd like to see him in an offense where, he can show his route running ability and his ability to stop on the dime, his ability to get in and out of breaks, and then also to take the top defense, maybe like an offense like Detroit, a CJ Stroud or a, Houston Texans. I do like Jordan Love, or, a place where I think he could be really utilized is like the Los Angeles Rams. And you have a Sean McVay who knows how to and look at different receiver types and different body types and how to get them involved within his offense. So, but I'm super excited for him. He's super consistent, has been leading the Giants and receiving ever since I was there. So excited about, where he can go and his potential to get paid. So he deserves some more money for sure.
No doubt. No doubt. I'm glad you mentioned Detroit. There was one team that I wanted to mention that was escaping me there. You're absolutely right. They actually need kind of a third receiver. That's an unsettled position there. So if the Giants season unfortunately doesn't start well, I would look for a team like the Lions to go acquire a guy like Slayton midseason. So I'm glad you mentioned that. Thank you. LA also, I don't know if you saw my eyebrows raised, but anytime you say someone's headed to LA with Sean McVay's offense, I get excited for them. And then speaking of the Rams, one of the Giants, I don't know if it's fair to call him a sleeper, but one of the players in Giants camp who is just quietly having one of the stronger camps is, unsurprisingly, really Allen Robinson, an accomplished veteran wide receiver, 1,400 yards, 14 touchdowns for the Jags, and then 2 seasons with the Bears back-to-back, 1147 and 7, 1250 and 6. And Benny, you and A-Rob apparently go way back. And am I correct in understanding that he was an incredible basketball player back in the day in Detroit?
Incredible basketball player and just an incredible athlete overall. I mean, he's not a better basketball player than me, but he was incredible, and I think, Allen, he can score the ball, or he could score the ball when he was playing in high school. And, our families have been very close. Allen was at my wedding. I've known Allen since he was 5, I was 7. So, he's been an incredible friend, and it's incredible to see his career just go the way it's gone. When you talk about consistency in terms of route running, hands, and just making plays, he's been that and some, and you can't play as long as he's played without being that type of consistent. So, super excited for him. I think he would be a great addition to that receiver room, not only from just a mindset standpoint, but really, continuing how to, be a pro. You think about the Malik Nabers of the world, the Hyatts of the world, and even Slay, as he continues to progress in his career, and Wan'Dale Robinson. These guys can, lean on a veteran like that, somebody who knows how to run routes, somebody who's been at different places and played for different coaches and has had a lot of success in this league. He's somebody that, they can lean on. And, I have the utmost respect for his game and his ability and everything that he's done.
Where does he stack or rank among, because you've played when you were younger, obviously you were a high level basketball player, AAU, high school, you played with a lot of big time players. So, you played with Draymond, you played with CJ McCollum, I think.
Yep.
You played with A-Rob. I'm leaving out, I think, several other names, but where does he rank there in the echelon of like all these future NBA stars, future NFL players? Like where does he rank?
That's hard to say. I mean, think about my high school. In my high school, we had 10 or 8 D1 basketball players. So you had Ray McCallum, who got drafted by the Sacramento Kings, McDonald's All-American. We had Donovan Kirk, went to Miami. My center went to Syracuse. My brother played and was 4-time captain at Central Michigan. Amir Williams, another McDonald's All-American. That's just on our high school team. So, that's just hard to say, but he's definitely up there in terms of athletic ability and then just a dual sport athlete. But that's hard to say. I mean, obviously Draymond, his incredible career, and you got the Alex Legions of the world, who went to Oak Hill and was Oak Hill's leading scorer in 2007 that I played with in high school. So that's just hard to say. But he's the best football player out of all those guys. I'll say that.
Well, I remember you telling me your guys' high school games always started with an alley-oop to you. Mm-hmm. Who was a better dunker?
I don't know. I think Allen could go between the legs. That's not something I could do. So he might be the better dunker, but I probably caught more bodies in games than he did.
There's a poster somewhere with somebody underneath you, basically. Yeah, I got you.
1,000%.
Oh, I love it. I love it. So you said he's a good route runner and savvy. Like what is not only like his greatest strength in general as a receiver, but then in addition to being the mentor in the room, because at the moment, I think he belongs on this Giants roster. I think he can help them. What do you think he gives them if he's on the field for them in this 2024 season, just from a schematic and production standpoint?
He gives Daniel a safety blanket. He just knows how to read coverage. He's seen it all. I mean, you got to think about it. Look what he did with Mitchell Trubisky. I mean, Mitchell Trubisky's Pro Bowl year and his best year, his go-to receiver was Allen. I know that was, a few years back, but Allen still has that type of ability. The Rams traded for him. That didn't go well because Stafford got hurt, but, he was going to do well there. And then, he was helping as much as he could in Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh was a shit show, but he was doing as much as he could there in terms of that receiver room. But Allen's going to catch the ball, and he just knows he has that feel for being a veteran receiver. So I think that's what you need, and that's what you find, when you look at Allen in this offense.
Benny, we're sitting here talking on August 14th, and actually, fortunate enough, thanks to your connection with Alan is going to be coming on the Talkin Ball with Pat Leonard podcast, and
Nice.
we're going to be talking. So I'm going to get the real answers to your game. I'm going to find out some just kind of secrets about your background on the basketball court behind the scenes. I'm looking forward to that. Anyone who's watching or listening, stay tuned, because that video will be coming up next. But it's funny, Benny. I'm planning this. You and I talking. We're doing the pod. Alan and I are doing the pod. The last practice running into our interviews here, he probably had 10 catches. Like, he was all over the place. He was open every play. He caught like a 40-yard touchdown in the left corner of the end zone. It was always open A-Rob day. And so it was well timed. It was well timed.
Yeah, I mean, he's a veteran. It's getting later on in camp. His body's getting going. He knows what he's doing.
All right. So while we're talking about basketball, real quick before I get you out of here, I don't think I talked to you yet about Steph Curry's gold medal game, but I know you know Steph, you know the Warriors well, obviously a fan of theirs and a great friend of Draymond's and friends of all theirs. So it's not quote unquote surprising at this point from the greatest shooter in NBA history, but how are you watching that and feeling as you're observing Steph kind of throw the ball through the rafters and into the hoop in a gold medal game?
I was sitting there and I was in Sarasota visiting my dad for his birthday, and I was sitting next to my wife and we were watching it. And just as it was unfolding, it was just, there was a little tension because France was coming back, and then he hits 4 threes in 3 minutes or 2 minutes or whatever it may be. And it's just incredible because, he's hitting these shots. And then the last one, when he threw it up there, I was like, what is he doing? Like, because you could make the play and you could make the right basketball play right there. And then I was just like, I didn't even get hyped because I'm just like, I honestly can't believe that he makes those shots. I mean, it's mind blowing to me what we're watching. Like, and I'm in awe of, the LeBrons of the world and things like that. But when you watch that, none of that makes sense. Like, LeBron's age and him defying, father time, that doesn't make sense either. But watching somebody with 3 people on them heave the ball up and not look at the rim, I don't even know what we're looking at. And like, will we ever see that again? I mean, it's insane. But also, shout out to Kevin Durant. Didn't play in any exhibition games. And just fits right in. 20 points here, 15 points there. I mean, it's insane.
Yeah. How insane is it that all of those guys being some of the best players ever at their positions, and KD in several games stands out above all of them, right?
Yeah.
Like he is good enough where he makes all of the best players in the world and some of the best players ever in the world look at him. Like they called a timeout after one of his big shots a few games earlier in the tournament, and LeBron, who is the best player ever, essentially looks at him like this, kind of like, yeah, it's like nobody can believe it. And it was actually really funny. I heard Steph Curry say after the game that crazy shot he threw up, he goes, "Oh yeah, that's just me being tired." So it's like, oh, so you're a little gassed and winded. So you hit like the most impossible shot ever. And the last thing I'll say is, I was saying to somebody the day after that, I said, you understand like how many people have been great shooters, and you think of the Larry Bird and Mark Price and right guys who have hit big shots in big spots like Steve Kerr, things like that. And all of those guys genuflect at the altar of Steph when it comes to shooting. It's just hard to understand how something that so many people have worked on so much and is just as simple as putting a ball in the basket, how he's just like that much better than everybody. I agree. What are we watching? That's a really good way of putting it.
It's even crazier when you're in the arena.
I've never seen him play
on TV.
I've never seen him play live.
I mean, I was there in Madison Square Garden when he broke the 3-point record, and it was just like, and he's had these moments where, is like, that is an awful shot. That's an awful shot. That's an awful shot. And he makes it. It's just like,
right. It's almost like you could, if you're guarding him, you could watch him take the first one and make it. And then you're not going to really run out to him the second time because you're still thinking like he's not going to shoot from there.
yeah.
And then he does.
And he does. He has no look. He has a compilation of no look threes where he's turned around before the ball has gone in.
Oh yeah, like in the corner where he like looks at the at like the other team's bench as he's like running away.
Yeah, it's like he doesn't have 2 of those, Pat. He's got 15 or 20 or 25, 30 of those. Like, that's insane.
Last Steph question. I like this tangent we're going on. It's great. So after he hits that, he does the like go to sleep. In the kind of realm of like best kind of trash talk, like how big of a dagger is that? And there's always like towing the line in those moments between like disrespect and like great trash talk that you've earned, even though you're doing that in the French team's faces and in Paris to a French crowd. Like, is that like one what you can't really do unless you absolutely earn with like a once in a lifetime thing?
I mean, Steph can do it because he's been doing it for a long time, but he knows what a dagger is. He knows I don't think he did this until that last shot, even though he had hit 3 threes before that. So he knew when it was time to do it, when it was time to pull out. And it's like, oh, it's a wrap. Like, thank you guys for coming to the show. I've now put you to bed.
Incredible moment from Steph. Benny, this has been so much fun. It always is. Really looking forward to having you back on throughout the season to break down what is going to be an exciting and eventful year, certainly in New York, whether it's a winning or losing season, but across the NFL is going to be a lot to talk about. I love doing that with you. He is Bennie Fowler, Super Bowl champion, former NFL wide receiver, entrepreneur, author. He does it all. Benny, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
Pat, appreciate you. Thanks.
That was a great conversation with Benny. Remember, we are sponsored here by Boom Chaga Mushroom Super Drink, a natural extract loaded with anti-inflammatory, immune-boosting antioxidants and heart-healthy compounds. You can easily pour this natural liquid supplement into any of your favorite drinks. I put mine in my coffee every morning and immediately feel the difference. I personally have felt a post-workout-like energy boost with Boom. Chaga has the ability to lower cholesterol, reduce inflammation, and improve immune and heart health with its beta-glucans and antioxidants. Go to boomchaga.com today to place your first order. And if you use the discount code Talkin Ball 25 or access it through the QR code on your screen, you will get 25% off your first subscribe and save order. Right now, that means a month's supply costs you only $30. Start feeling the difference today at boomchaga.com. Also brought to you by Bet Online and by Estate 98 Coffee, an all-natural specialty coffee with no sugar that is convenient for on-the-go professionals and parents. Takes me less than 10 seconds to make a delicious Estate 98 iced coffee and only a minute more to make a hot coffee or latte from this all-natural concentrate. Go to estate98.com/talkinball to get a special buy one, get one free deal.